This is Dustin Headley, and I work for the Institute for Digital Fabrication at Ball State University. And this tutorial covers sending laser cutting prints to a universal laser cutter from Rhino 3D modeling. Okay, so the first thing that I've done here is you can already see that I've opened up a file that I'm going to be laser cutting. You have something right here. You have all your laser cut stuff organized and scaled to the proper scale that you want to cut this at. And the first thing you want to make sure when you're laser cutting out of Rhino is you want to come over here and you want to make sure your units are set to the right setting. So I'm going to come over here and in the document properties, set the units, and you can see that they're set in millimeters, and I need this to be set in inches since the laser cutter reads inches. Okay, and I just like as a precautionary measure beef that up, and usually makes Rhino run a little bit more precise and accurately. And I do not want to scale this, as I want this to be a one-to-one translation since I've been modeling all this already. Okay, so now that our model is actually in the right unit setting, we can go ahead and start setting up the fabrication sheets. So I'm going to create a layer called Fab, and I'm going to change the layer settings to white. And the reason why I'm going to do this is I have each one of these lines here you can see is set layer to a certain layer, and then the display color is by layer, and the print color is also by layer. So if I set this to white and I go in here and I draw a 32 by 18 box, which is the size of the bed of a laser cutter, you notice that it's white, and it'll print white, and I don't have to worry about it printing this box because it's not any of the registered colors for the laser cutter. So, alright, and so now I'm ready to place one of these guys into the laser cutting window. So I'll just grab this, come here, copy. Right, and then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to rotate this in. Now you'll notice that I don't have I have certain snaps on. You can do this, so you can do a step over an inch at a time and other things like that. We're not going to necessarily go into that. I do have my O snaps on, which are important. I usually use end, point, mid, intercept, and etc. You can see these are just good to have on. So now when I place the laser cut, the stuff I want to laser cut into this sheet size, we take this and we push this out into this about a 1/4 inch off the sheet size. And the reason why you do that is because the bed of the laser cutter is actually not attached to the laser cutter itself, so you can remove it. And what that does is it does two things. It allows you to put larger materials in, but then it also makes it so that you can't necessarily count on it always being exactly in the right spot. So we need to have some offcut allotted for that so that we can make sure we get everything laser cut the way we want it to. Okay, so now we've got this nice organized in a nested sheet, and this is set to layer 6, and notice you can come in here and you can set this to any color. You can set this to red, blue, and if you notice here the RGB values are 0, 0, 255, and that's important to note because it typically reads those solid values the best. Green is also 255. Okay. So now I'm ready to go ahead and do the print. So here I'm going to do Control P, and you see as the X660 pops up as the destination printer, and the laser cutter is actually just a glorified printer. It reads vector lines just like any other programs, any other printer would, except that its output is a little bit different. So first thing we need to do when we get in here is we need to make sure our page size is right. This looks right, but let's just double check. Go into Properties, the engraving field. And now we come in here and we look, it's in inches, the width is 32 by 18. So this is actually correct. If this is all out of whack when you come in here, you just want to maximize the page size, and it'll reset these values to the specs for the machine. Okay, and then click OK. Alright, so we know where this is at. This is the right size and everything, right? So now we want to come down here and scroll down to the View and Output Scale. Now, the first thing I want to cover in this is the scale right here. You have 1:1, and that's exactly what you want. Another thing that commonly happens is scale to fit, and I'll show you what happens when you do that. But we want to either do one of two things here. We want to draw a new window, we want to move a window. And what we want to do is draw a new window. So we're going to take this, and you'll notice that it's scaling to the proper size for this. But what we want to do is just come in here, and we've already drawn this so we know this is accurate. So we can come in and click on that, and then we just press enter, and we're good. So, and you can see that this updated with the cuts in the proper location. Okay. Now if we come in here and we can take this and move this somewhere else, and we can just take that and move that back because we know that's where it's at. Now the scale to fit, we need to come down here, and you can see that this looks Absolutely right. Everything looks appropriately placed. And then if we go down here to 1 to 1, oh, what happened? No, this is 1 to 1. Oh, you see, I made a mistake here. I set the units wrong, and we'll go in here. We know we don't want to do that. We want to go back and Control P, and there it is. So, all right. So now here we'll just go back. If we do a scale to fit, you can see that it offsets everything in just slightly and adds margins, which we don't want. So we want this to be 1 to 1. Okay, and so then we want to come in here, and now that we've got this all set, 1 to 1, we're in the right viewport, we have the window in the right place, and we want to go and do a properties. We are ready to set the laser cutter settings for this job. Now, this job was cut out of 1/4" acrylic, and it's important to understand that there are 3 laser cutters in the university, and each one of these has a unique value sets depending on the material. So, depending on which machine we're going to be using, I'm going to be using the super speed, so I can set this to run a little bit faster. We can run this, and we'll just go over this right now. So, we can run this a little bit faster than on the other machines in the university. Now, you'll notice here that this is all set to skip. Like, you want these, sometimes they're set like raster, vector, or raster, or just vector. And it's important that when you're not using these colors, you have them off, just in case you have floating lines or hidden lines somewhere that you're not aware of, and you don't want the printer to actually accidentally pick those things up. So that's just a precautionary measure. So let's go over the power, speed, and PPI settings here. The power, obviously, is pretty simple, and the speed, I mean, these are ratios that you're going to set up, and depending on the material, sometimes it's better to run it faster at a higher power, and sometimes it's better to run it slower at a lower power. That's something you're going to have to negotiate. The PPI, which represents pulses per inch, is something that is a setting that you're going to have to look at, and it's important. This is an important setting in that if you're cutting acrylic, you want this to be higher because it gives you a nice, cleaner cut. But if you're cutting like a paper product, a mat board or cardstock or something like that, you want to have this set lower to somewhere in the 200, 300, maybe even 500 range, so that it fires less and gives you a nice, cleaner cut, and it'll burn less. So, I mean, that's important if you're making a chipboard model versus a plexiglass model. So, just be aware of that. Okay, so we've got this set to vector, which is what we were going to do. Setting this, and if you want to do rastering areas and stuff like that, I'll cover that in a different tutorial. But you want to just be aware that this Rhinoceros is probably best for doing laser cutting. And if you're doing raster areas like image and stuff like that, you probably want to do that in Adobe Illustrator. Okay. Alright, so we click OK. And we've got our settings set. We've got our everything looks right in the screen. We're 1 to 1. And we're ready to send this off to the printer or the laser cutter. Alright, so we just click print. And it's off. And that's it.